Behind every WWE legend stands a woman who can make or break him. As Tammy Sytch's affair with Shawn Michaels ruined Chris Candido's career, Lita's betrayal turned Matt Hardy's life into a public nightmare, and Linda Hogan's accusations left Hulk Hogan's legacy in ruins, and these three are just the beginning of wrestling's most scandalous wives. Leading the list is Karen Jarrett, whose story perfectly illustrates how professional wrestling blurs the lines between in-ring drama and real-life chaos. Born Karen Smedley on October 12, 1972, she first entered the wrestling world through her marriage to Olympic gold medalist and WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle in 1998, a union that produced two children over their decade together. What makes her story so compelling is how it unfolded amid the non-stop action of wrestling, with Karen reportedly beginning an affair with Jeff Jarrett while still married to Angle, during a period when Jarrett was coping with the death of his first wife, Jill Gregory, from cancer in 2007. The backstage environment at TNA became absolutely toxic when Kurt Angle discovered the affair, leading to heated confrontations and operational disruptions that former TNA creative head Vince Russo said caused huge damage to the company, creating an impossible work environment where its founder and one of its biggest stars were at each other's throats over a woman. The fallout was immediate and severe, with Jeff Jarrett temporarily sent home from TNA in 2009. Officially for creative reasons, though everyone in the industry knew the real story behind his sudden absence. Karen divorced Kurt Angle in 2008 and married Jarrett in 2010, cementing what many in wrestling circles saw as the ultimate betrayal. The scandal resurfaced as recently as January 2023, when Karen publicly accused Angle of cheating during their marriage, claiming affairs with WWE stars Kelly Kelly and Dawn Marie, though Kelly Kelly firmly denied the allegations. And the controversy continues to follow Karen to this day. Speaking of women whose personal lives became inseparably linked with wrestling drama, Nancy Benoit represents a story that transcends typical backstage chaos and enters genuinely tragic territory. Born Nancy Topolone on May 17, 1964, in Boston, Massachusetts, she carved out an impressive wrestling career under the ring name Woman, working across multiple promotions, including Championship Wrestling from Florida, WCW, and ECW, where she became one of the most notable female managers of her era. Her personal life was complicated from the start, as she met Kevin Sullivan through wrestling circles and married him in 1985. But their relationship eventually crumbled due to an on-screen affair with Chris Benoit that became all too real behind the scenes. Nancy divorced Kevin Sullivan in 1997 following a scripted retirement match where Sullivan lost to Chris Benoit, and she later married Chris Benoit on November 23, 2000, with whom she had a son, Daniel Christopher Benoit. Warning signs appeared along the way, including a May 2003 divorce filing in which Nancy cited an irreparably broken marriage and alleged cruel treatment, obtaining a restraining order that she later withdrew in August 2003, the tragedy that struck the Benoit family on June 22nd to 24th. 2007 shocked the world when Nancy was murdered by Chris in their Fayetteville, Georgia home, strangled with her limbs bound using coaxial cables and duct tape. And their son Daniel was killed by suffocation the following day, before Chris took his own life. Investigations pointed to possible motives including chronic traumatic encephalopathy from repeated concussions, steroid abuse, and prior domestic strife. While Nancy was a victim rather than someone who destroyed reputations, the tragedy significantly damaged WWE's reputation, prompting congressional investigations and forever changing how the wrestling industry addressed health and safety concerns. This level of industry-wide impact would be echoed differently by another woman who took on WWE directly, as Rena Marlette Lesnar, known to wrestling fans worldwide as Sable, burst onto the WWE scene in the mid-1990s, representing everything the Attitude Era would come to embody, and her meteoric rise would eventually be matched only by the spectacular nature of her departure from the company. As Rena Marlette Lesnar, born on August 8, 1967, in Jacksonville, Florida, had already built a successful modeling career working for brands like L'Oreal, Pepsi, and guess before entering wrestling through her marriage to Mark Mero in 1994, she made her WWE debut at WrestleMania 12 in March 1996. And within just a few years, her merchandise sales rivaled those of top stars like Steve Austin, turning her into one of the company's most valuable commodities. Behind the scenes, however, Sable faced significant resentment from peers who saw her as emblematic of unearned success, as she was not formally trained as a wrestler but received a rapid push to the top of the women's division. Tensions reached a boiling point in June 1999 when she abruptly quit WWE and filed a $110 million lawsuit in Connecticut federal court, alleging widespread sexual harassment and unsafe working conditions, including male wrestlers routinely entering women's dressing rooms, peeping through holes in walls, pressure for a lesbian angle, and repeated requests to expose her breasts on TV. While a notorious incident involved a co-worker placing feces in her bag as a prank, on her last day, a moment former writer Vince Russo described as the worst thing I ever heard. The lawsuit was settled out of court in August 1999 for an undisclosed amount, and Sable eventually returned to WWE in 2003. But her legacy remains complicated by the legal battle that exposed the darker side of wrestling's biggest company. More recently, her husband Brock Lesnar's involvement in the 2020 for Chanel Grant lawsuit against Vince McMahon has brought renewed attention to her own history with WWE controversies. Speaking of complicated backstage relationships and the damage they can cause, Terry Reynolds' story perfectly illustrates how personal relationships in wrestling can become incredibly messy, damaging multiple reputations and leaving a trail of accusations and counter-accusations that persist for decades. Terry Lynn Boatwright, born on October 5, 1966, began her wrestling career as a makeup artist for CNN and Jim Crockett Promotions before transitioning into an on-screen role in WCW in 1990. She eventually became known to WWE fans as Marina, the seductive, cigar-smoking manager of her then-husband Dustin Reynolds, better known as Goldust, and their marriage, which began on July 25, 1993, deteriorated in part due to Dustin's strained dynamic with his legendary father, Dusty Rhodes. Terry has claimed that Dusty Rhodes spread damaging rumors about her, portraying her as a gold digger and accusing her of infidelity, which worsened their marital issues. Reports and industry sources suggest some allegations had substance, including an affair with wrestler Sean Stasiak, known as Meat. During his on-screen association with her character, Dustin reportedly confronted Terry about other rumored affairs, including one with Jake the Snake Roberts, which she denied, giving him an ultimatum to trust her or leave. And the couple divorced in October 1999. Beyond her marriage, Terry has been connected to other controversies, including accusing Brock Lesnar of sexual harassment around 2002 when he allegedly exposed himself to her in a dressing room, and her tumultuous relationship with ECW legend New Jack from 2009 to 2011, which ended viciously with accusations and an attempt to sell nude photos of her. Despite all the drama, Terry and Dustin eventually mended ties for their daughter Dakota's sake and maintain a positive relationship today. This ability to move past scandal would prove far more difficult for another woman whose wrestling career became defined by her romantic entanglements, Tammy Lynn Sitch, known to millions as Sunny, whose story demonstrates perhaps more than any other the devastating trajectory from the absolute pinnacle of fame to the depths of personal destruction, as she was once considered wrestling's first true diva. Born on December 7, 1972 in Matawan, New Jersey, Tammy Lynn Sitch originally focused on education and studied premed at the University of Tennessee with dreams of becoming a plastic surgeon, but her life took a major turn after meeting wrestler Chris Candido, and by 1996 she had become the most downloaded celebrity on the internet, according to America Online, even surpassing names like Pamela Anderson, while her relationship with Candido became deeply tied to both of their careers, yet was filled with personal problems that slowly damaged their public image. And later, in a revealing interview, Sitch openly spoke about her affair with Shawn Michaels.
He's looking over my head, like just, looking over my head, and all of a sudden he goes, "You feel that?" I went, "Matter of fact, I do." Right. I think you know what I mean about, "Do you feel that?" I was like, okay, and things are running through my head. What is he doing? This is Shawn Michaels. I'm just some little girl in this company. Because I didn't quite understand in my head where I was at that point. I mean, I was here, but in my head, I was still the new little girl who, I was young. Right. I was really young. It was 96, so.
The affair lasted around 9 months, during which Vince McMahon himself showed support and even allowed Sitch and Michaels to use his locker room to be together. But when Michaels asked her to move to Texas, she eventually decided to stay and try to fix her relationship with Candido.
Oh my God, all hell broke loose because Chris and him hated each other. And the fact that I chose Chris and tried to work things out with him over Sean, his ego, it took a bullet to his ego.
Right.
He was so furious,
Both Sitch and Candido battled substance abuse, and tragedy struck when Candido died on April 28, 2005, at just 33 years old due to acute pneumonia, after surgery for a broken leg. And after his death, Sitch's life continued to fall apart, eventually leading to a fatal DUI crash in Florida in 2022 that killed 75-year-old Julian Lakater, a crime that resulted in her being sentenced to 17.5 years in prison in November 2023, and her devastating fall from Gracewood later mirror another woman whose real-life affair became one of wrestling's most infamous storylines. Lita, also known as Amy Dumas, a name tied to some of the greatest moments in women's wrestling history, but forever connected to one of the most shocking love triangles the industry has ever seen, a situation that turned a beloved fan favorite into one of the most hated figures in the company. As Amy Christine Dumas, born on April 14, 1975 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, joined WWE in 1999, became a four-time WWE Women's Champion, and a major pioneer of women's wrestling, famous for her high-flying style and her role in Team Extreme, alongside the Hardy Boys. While her real-life relationship with Matt Hardy, which began in 1999, made them a powerful couple in wrestling until everything unraveled in early 2005 when Lita started an affair with Edge, one of Hardy's close friends, leading to a massive fallout that saw Hardy publicly vent his anger online, a move that resulted in his release from WWE in April 2005, and later during a tense phone call shared online, Hardy directly confronted Lita about the situation.
I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the horse's mouth.
What would you like to know, Matt? Because as I know, I'm sure you've been listening to this entire show, because if it's online, it's on in your house. I know that much.
Well, the first thing I want to say is, how did it feel to see me Monday?
I don't know if it was so much seeing you that I didn't like, but I didn't really like seeing you blindside my boyfriend and attack him. But that was awfully sweet of you.
WWE turned the real-life drama into a major on-screen storyline by portraying Lita as a villain in highly explicit segments, including the infamous live sex celebration on Raw in January 2006, which she later said made her deeply uncomfortable, and claimed the company threatened to fire her. She refused, and the non-stop public humiliation played a major role in her retiring in November 2006. Though she was later inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2014 and has since repaired her relationships with both Hardy and Edge. And while affairs continued to shake the wrestling world, the story of Melina Perez shows how rumors alone can follow performers for decades. As Melina Nava Perez, born on March 9, 1979, won the Women's Championship 3 times and the Divas Championship twice during her WWE run from 2004 to 2011, earning praise from legends like Bret Hart as one of the company's best wrestlers, and her longest and most meaningful relationship was with fellow wrestler John Hennigan, known as John Morrison, which lasted around 11 years from 2003 to 2015, but the relationship eventually collapsed due to constant rumors accusing Melina of having an affair with WWE legend Dave Bautista, rumors that began from an on-screen storyline between them around 2005 to 2007, and despite repeatedly denying the accusations, Melina later said the false stories destroyed lives, caused serious damage to her mental health, and even pushed her to the point of considering suicide. Bautista stated in a 2007 interview that his relationship with Melina only began after she and Hennigan had already broken up, but other stories claimed the affair started while they were still together, creating backstage tension that allegedly damaged Hennigan's push and once again exposed WWE's long-standing double standards, where women like Melina faced harsher backlash for personal issues than men, and continuing the pattern of alleged affairs involving John Cena that ruined relationships. Mickie James' story stands as another warning, as her relationship with Kenny Dykstra, a former Spirit Squad member turned singles wrestler, reportedly collapsed after Dykstra claimed in 2012 that James began an affair with Cena in late 2007 while still engaged to him, and while Cena was married to Elizabeth Huerta, alleging he discovered it after catching James searching Mickie James and John Cena dating on a computer. And following this, Dykstra said WWE management punished him by moving him from Raw to SmackDown before releasing him in November 2008. James was later moved to SmackDown, where she became part of the controversial Picky James storyline, in which Laykel publicly mocked her weight, an angle many fans felt was meant as punishment. And in a 2017 interview, James spoke about the situation, admitting she had dated Cena, but rejecting Dykstra's claims as mostly lies told for attention or book sales, and over time, she rebuilt both her career and her public image, eventually finding happiness as the wife of Nick Aldis, with whom she has a son, and continuing the theme of John Cena's complicated romantic past. The story of Elizabeth Hubbard shows how painful the end of a high-profile marriage can be, as Hubbard, born on September 28, 1979 in West Newbury, Massachusetts, was Cena's high school sweetheart, and they were together for around 12 years before getting engaged in 2009 and marrying in a private Boston ceremony on July 11, 2009. But the marriage lasted only 3 years, with Cena filing for divorce on May 1, 2012, citing irreconcilable differences, a move that reportedly caught Hubbard off guard, and the split turned bitter when she accused Cena of cheating in June 2012, claiming she had reason to believe he was unfaithful during the marriage, with rumors pointing to alleged relationships with wrestlers like Mickie James, AJ Lee, Maria Kanellis, Kelly Kelly, and even an adult film star. While disagreements over their home were also said to have played a role in the divorce, a home renovation project in Tampa caused costs to spiral and led to a $110,000 lien from a contractor, but the couple eventually reached a peaceful agreement, with the divorce finalized on July 18, 2012, after which Hubbard withdrew her public accusations, chose to stay out of the spotlight, and focused on her real estate career, and turning to another WWE legend whose marriage collapsed amid infidelity claims. Linda Hogan's story proves how polished public images can hide deep personal chaos, as Hulk Hogan and Linda Hogan once portrayed the perfect wrestling family on Hogan Knows Best, while serious issues were brewing behind the scenes, eventually exploding into one of the most bitter celebrity divorces ever, with Linda Marie Claridge, born on August 24, 1959, meeting Hulk in the early 1980s at a Los Angeles restaurant and marrying him December 18, 1983, in a wedding attended by major wrestling figures, including Andre the Giant, only for their 24-year marriage to end when Linda secretly filed for divorce in November 2007 following Hulk's affair with Christian Plant, a close friend of their daughter Brooke, while also accusing him of physical and emotional abuse, describing moments where he ripped her shirt through lamps, grabbed her throat, and slammed doors during fights. And later, in a 2016 Inside Edition interview, Linda tearfully said Hulk destroyed 25 years of marriage, and that their children were still suffering from the aftermath, with the 2009 settlement granting her 70% of their liquid assets, 40% ownership in Hulk's businesses, a $3 million property settlement, and several vehicles. And even as recently as March 2025, she posted an emotional video accusing Hulk of being a sex addict and habitual liar, while breaking down over the family damage that still haunted her more than a decade after the divorce. Their daughter Brooke later chose to distance herself from both parents to focus on her own healing and continuing the theme of families fractured by infidelity. In wrestling, the story of Samantha Spino shows how even peaceful separations can become part of larger narratives about a wrestler's character, as Samantha Marie Spino, born on January 11, 1982 in Missouri, met Randy Orton in a bar in 2005, married him on September 21, 2007, and gave birth to their daughter Alana Marie Orton on July 12, 2008, before filing for divorce in late 2012, citing an irretrievably broken marriage, with the split finalized on friendly terms in June 2013. At the time, reports pointed to Orton's demanding WWE schedule as a major factor, while later stories suggested possible infidelity on his part, and as part of the settlement, Spino received primary custody of their daughter, child support, and additional assets, after which she chose a quiet life, building Stoltis brands, working in real estate and construction, and focusing on personal growth rather than public drama, with no evidence her actions ever damaged Orton's reputation, while Orton later remarried Kim Marie Kessler in 2015. And when looking at wrestlers' former partners who handled hardship with grace, Angie Bautista stands as an example that some of the most powerful stories in wrestling are not about scandal or betrayal, but about the emotional toll of fame and the sacrifices required when married to a superstar at the peak of their career. Angie Bautista, born Nay Lewis around 1969, married Dave Bautista on October 13, 1998, just as he was starting the wrestling journey that would turn him into a multi-time world champion. And in September 2002, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. A life-changing moment that happened early in Bautista's WWE rise as she went through treatment and periods of remission while their marriage ended in 2006. After 8 years with reports pointing to Bautista's intense schedule and alleged infidelity, including a widely discussed relationship with WWE diva Melina Perez around 2006 to 2007, yet despite the divorce, Angie and Dave stayed close friends, with Bautista actively supporting her cancer causes, traveling across the United States in 2010 to create a campaign called Bautista vs. Cancer in her honor, getting a red kanji tattoo, the Red Angel, as a tribute, and Angie herself later saying that she and Dave had a great relations, and that she could not have made it through without him, with no credible information showing she ever damaged anyone's reputation, instead standing as an example of strength, dignity, and grace. And if you enjoyed this video, click the cards on your screen for more.